So let's forget about interprovincial trade barriers. Let's have Doug Ford and the Crown Corporation, that is the LCBO, look into intra-provincial trade barriers. Let's give Ontario wines a fair shake. David Menzies for Rebel News here at the Summerhill LCBO store in Midtown Toronto. And you know, with all the tariff talk that's ongoing, there has been a move afoot for all kinds of reforms when it comes to commerce. And by that I mean not international commerce, but interprovincial commerce. Do you know, folks, interprovincial trade barriers just absolutely stymie our Canadian economy. It is easier for me to get a case of French wine than it is to get a case of British Columbia wine. There's all kinds of chatter to end interprovincial trade walls. I will believe it when I see it. This has been discussed for decades and nothing gets done. But I want to speak about the homegrown Ontario product when it comes to wine, because the LCBO and the province of Ontario is a complete anomaly in all of the wine world. More than 70% of the wines sold at LCBO stores in Ontario are foreign wines. That's right, only about 25% of the wines are from Ontario. And it is inherently unfair. If you were to go to a Parisian wine shop, what are the chances you'd get an Ontario wine? Maybe you would find an Ontario ice wine there because they can't grow ice wine in France. But all the nations, South Africa, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Australia, you would not see that kind of reciprocity in terms of wine. You would not see virtually any Ontario wine on the shelves. Now, over the years, the LCBO has claimed that due to trade agreements, GATT, NAFTA, something called the Canada-European Community Agreement on Wine and Spirits, that they are bound by those agreements to stock foreign wines. But I know a lawyer who is a trade expert who went through more than 1,000 pages of trade agreements, and he says to me it's simply not true. And it isn't true, because the proof would be in the pudding. If all these other wine-producing nations aren't stocking Ontario wines, then wouldn't we have a case to go to in court? But it's never brought up. Why is the LCBO and the province of Ontario turning a blind eye to this grotesque trade imbalance? And the unspoken reason, folks, is that the LCBO actually considers independent wine stores that exist due to a grandfathering clause as competition to the LCBO. I know it sounds perverse. The LCBO deems a bottle of wine sold at a boutique store to be a bottle of wine they never got to sell. It's just astonishing. A 2002 KPMG report noted that the sale of a bottle of Ontario wine adds more than $4 of non-tax income to the provincial economy. The sale of a foreign bottle of wine adds less than 50 cents to the economy. Do you think the Ontario winemakers are upset? Well, they're frothing mad. Will any of them come on camera? Absolutely not. Because you see, when you're dealing with the provincial liquor monopoly, the C in LCBO, that stands for control, and they're very big on control, which is to say, if there's any dissenting voices out there, your product will get delisted. So let's forget about interprovincial trade barriers. Let's have Doug Ford and the Crown Corporation, that is the LCBO, look into intra-provincial trade barriers. Let's give Ontario wines a fair shake. And if there are international trade agreements in which all the other wine-producing nations aren't playing ball, then let's go after them in international court. But as I said before, there is an unspoken reason for this discrimination, i.e. unwanted competition. Isn't that the saddest thing, folks, in the world? That Ontario is the only wine-producing region on the planet that actually discriminates against the homegrown product. Unbelievable. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, I know you love it when Rebel News tells you the other side of the story. The fact is, we need your help. Unlike the trained seals in the mainstream media, we do not receive a single nickel of Justin Trudeau media slush fund money. So please go to rebelfieldreports.com. That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you're able to, kindly make a donation.